Peace be with you. Dear friends, we are celebrating Thursday of the second week of Lent. Today's gospel passage is taken from Luke's Gospel, chapter 16, verses 19 to 31. Now, in this gospel passage, we find a beautiful story that is narrated by Jesus. This is a parable about the rich man who was sumptuously feasting as well as wearing purple and soft linen. So he was actually, in a way, celebrating life. Celebrating life, disregarding perhaps his own neighbors. Now, on the other hand, we find this poor man Lazarus, who did not have any friends but those dogs around him. He did not have enough food to eat, and consequently, he was so poor and suffering. Now, when we look at this rich man, what was he doing? Maybe Jesus wanted to refer to Herod or the Sadducees or those rich people who were boasting about themselves that all the good things that they got were from God. And that is why they considered themselves blessed people. But then at the same time, perhaps they did not have any kind of regard for those people who were poor around them. And that is why Jesus is giving out this parable to understand the contrast between the poor and the rich in this world. Now, looking at the rich man, what do we understand here? He was sumptuously feasting. Now, he did not even give those crumbs that fell down from his table. Now, according to Jesus, the understanding is very clear that if even those crumbs were given to that poor man Lazarus, he would have gone to heaven. And that's why, since he did not have that minimum regard for his own neighbor who was suffering, that is why at the end of his life, he was taken into hell. And what is hell? Dear friends, when we do not love one another, that's a hellish experience. This rich man most probably was so egocentric, self-centered, and filled with self-importance that his only concern was to enjoy life. Now let us look at Lazarus. What did he do in his life? He was poor, he was hungry, he was half naked, and consequently, he was just longing to eat those pieces of bread that fell from the rich man's table. But no one gave them to him. Understanding is very clear. Why Jesus used the name Lazarus? Is it because Jesus was friendly with Lazarus, the brother of Mary and Martha? We do not know. But then he has in this parable a very clear message to all of us. Dear friends, when we look at the people of Israel, we find they were chosen because they were no people at all. They were chosen not because they were talented or they were a great nation. God took them out of slavery and brought them to the promised land. Now, when we look at this gospel passage, what we need to conclude in our daily lives, as Jesus himself said in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 25, ultimately, what leads us to heaven or what kind of reward we are going to get in heaven is our good works towards those people who are suffering. That's why on the last judgment day, when the king sits on his judgment seat, he will separate sheep from the goats. And to the sheep he will say, "Blessed are you, enter into my kingdom, because when I was hungry, you gave me to eat. When I was thirsty, you gave me to drink. When I was naked, you clothed me. When I was a stranger, you welcomed me. When I was sick and when I was in prison, you visited me." And that is why you are blessed and enter into my kingdom. But then those people who never had concern towards those needy neighbors, what the king says, "Depart from me. Because when I was hungry, you did not give me food. When I was thirsty, you did not give me to drink. When I was naked, you did not clothe me. When I was a stranger, you did not welcome me. When I was sick, you did not visit me. When I was in prison, you did not visit me or you talked to me. Dear friends, when we look at Lazarus, we find a person who was in prison, who was naked, who was hungry, who was thirsty, who was sick, who was a stranger. But then when we look at this rich man in today's gospel passage, we find he had everything. He had good clothing, linen and purple, and he was feasting on good food. That means his heaven was here on earth. And now Lazarus is enjoying the eternal bliss in the bosom of Abraham. Let us meditate on this gospel passage. It will be an eye opener to all of us that it is not our fasts and our penances, long prayers, and stations of the cross that will lead us to heaven. Ultimately, all those things are necessary, almsgiving, praying, fasting, but they will certainly help us to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. God bless you.